Well, they're called Roads of National Significance, or RONz. They're 7 massive projects that will cost taxpayers billions of dollars. The government says we need them to help grow the economy and is committed to building them. But opponents point to declining traffic volumes and, of course, the near record price of petrol as evidence that they are, in fact, doomed to failure. Well, we'll hear from Transport Minister Jerry Brownlee shortly, but with us now is Green MP and former transport economics researcher Julie-Anne Genter. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
What's wrong with these projects? I mean, we've been pushing for these projects for some time. We need them, don't we?
I think that they're definitely not the best use of money for the coming 10 years. So the government's said that 75% of all the money on new transport infrastructure over the next 10 years is just going to go on these few motorway projects. Less than 1% of the total transport budget over the next 10 years is going to go on public transport, and significantly less
What would
than
happen if we
1%
didn't
walking
build these roads, though?
Well, not much is what the evidence seems to suggest. We don't have increasing traffic volumes on these state highways. We do have really high demand for buses and trains in Auckland. I mean, the government says that somehow these motorways are going to reduce congestion and lift economic productivity. But I have to ask you, do you think the average Aucklander is going to find it easier to get to work, to get their kids to school, because there's 4 lanes?
But isn't it about, also we're talking about freight here, aren't we? Most of the transport, most of the freight in New Zealand goes by roads. And if we have these roads, big roads, working better, freight's going to move faster, we're going to get greater economic growth.
So if you look at the business case for something like Puhoi to Wellsford, it's all based on the idea that trucks will save about 5 minutes on their journey. So if you think that by a bunch of trucks saving 5 minutes each, we're going to have a massive lift.
Granted, the Puhoi to Wellington one's a slightly dubious one, but let's look at some of the other ones. The Western Ring Route, the State Highway 20, for example, that will speed up traffic around Auckland enormously, won't it?
Well, it's really only 4 lanes of traffic. I mean, it's not increasing the road capacity of the roads that the people are using when they actually leave the motorway. Now, something like the City Rail Link, for example, would carry the equivalent of 10 motorway lanes of people into Auckland and around Auckland at peak hour. So that's a better use of money, even if you don't use the rail link. If you're a motorist, you're still going to be better off. Freight is only 1% of the traffic in Auckland at peak hour. So we've got plenty of roads for freight. What we really need to do is give Kiwi households options to walk, to cycle, to take public transport. That's going to free up the roads, and it's a lot more cost effective. It's going to cost way less than $14 billion.
Have we missed the boat as a country here, though? It's too late for us to go back and start pumping billions into public transport because we've got all these roads. I mean, it doesn't make sense, does it? It's too much time to do that.
Well, I think that every investment that we've made into public transport in Auckland especially has resulted in huge growth and patronage.
But scale-wise, like how many people go on the trains in Auckland?
So, all right, let's look at the Northern Busway. That's a really good example, because right now the Northern Busway is carrying more people into Auckland City over the Harbour Bridge than all the other lanes of traffic combined. How much would it have cost to put on 4 extra lanes on the Harbour Bridge? How much would it have cost to expand? It's impossible to expand the road network for the cars to drive on when they come off the motorway, off the Harbour Bridge in Auckland Central. So, look, what we're talking about is using motorist money and road users' money in the way that's going to get the biggest bang for their buck. And what's really clear from the business cases is that these motorways aren't good. They aren't good value for money. They're going to cost more than the benefits they're going to deliver to New Zealand. And yet the government's repeating this mantra of, this is how we're going to lift economic productivity.
Julie-Anne Genter from the Green Party, thank you very much. Right, let's go now to discuss, of course, those projects. Transport Minister Jerry Brownlee. Good morning to you, Minister.
Good morning.
Listen, I wonder if I could just quote you back something you said in the House yesterday. You said the government comes in with a program, does what it thinks is necessary to create economic growth. This is not a successful economy. There is not a successful economy in the world that doesn't do this. You were basically saying it doesn't matter about the business cases because we know that these are the right things to do.
No, I think you're selectively taking a bit of an answer to an exchange of questions. The real point here is that when we came into office, people were still talking and lamenting about decisions during the 60s and 70s not to advance some of the roading network around Auckland. And let me say, this interview you've just had is very Auckland-centric. The transport policy, of course, applies to the whole country. And, you know, the other interesting thing about that interview was, yes, the busway has been successful, but guess what? The buses run on roads. So we think we're in the right space. And, there is also, of course, a Green Party policy to take all car parking out of the CBD in Auckland. And that'll make a difference.
Can I just come back to that original question?
You cannot have a modern economy that does not have an efficient transport system, and roads are a very significant part of that.
Have you pushed ahead with these 7 projects without having the business cases in place?
Oh, no, there are business cases in place.
Before you agreed, have they been done? I mean, did you make those decisions first?
Look, there is a process that's gone through, and something like Puhoi to Wellsford is currently under consideration, looking at how you develop a road like that. There is more than just the strict numbers that are applied to benefit cost ratios. What we do is look at what is the long-term demographic, and while it's easy to argue that there's a little bit of a drop in transport movements at the present time, the busway in Auckland will account for a lot of that. And so will, I think, the upgraded rail facilities, the carriageways, etc., carriages, etc., that are going into both Auckland and Wellington.
Petrol prices, of course, is the other thing. We are seeing petrol prices getting back to record highs. There's really little indication that they're going to go back down again. So there's going to be more people migrating to public transport, isn't there? So why not beef up public transport?
Well, we are. We're putting $1.6 billion into the electrification of the rail in Auckland. We've put a lot of money into
what about a rail? What about
better
the tunnel?
Better carriages in Wellington. But you keep bringing it back to an Auckland argument, and I'm telling you that the transport policy is not totally Auckland centric, although your program largely is. I think the idea of a tunnel itself is something that people keep talking about. There's no immediate plans to build a tunnel because we are seeing a different mix of transport uses by people, and that's a good thing. But to say that you would simply stop the roading program at the present time, I think is quite wrong and very regressive.
Just on this point, though, of business cases, cost-benefit analysis, I just want to be absolutely sure, because it seemed to be you saying in the House yesterday that, no, trust us, we're making these decisions because we're the government. Absolutely, you came in, you've got that right to do it. But that's a dangerous place to be. I mean, you start building roads to nowhere with that sort of attitude, don't you?
Corin, that is a dreadful representation of what was said in the House yesterday. It's question time. From all your years of experience, you know what a theatre that is. I'm happy to release benefit cost ratios.
Said, wasn't it?
We do release business cost ratios, and we assess them. We don't necessarily agree with the assessment of those business cases by our political opponents. And what I am saying is that, yes, we have high, we have medium, we have low, but then there are other factors that we apply as well. Happy to release all that. It's actually released now. It's all quite public. But my real message is that we strongly believe that the program that we've got in place is the best thing for New Zealand to develop a better future through more economic growth or more sustainable economic growth. And we're not backing away from that.
All right, Transport Minister Jerry Brownie, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.